started.
Jesus, switchboard.
Should we give
completely
it the
lit up
number so
here.
they know what to call in with?
So if people need the number to call in, the number is 386.
Oh, country code first, right? Don't be.
Country code first. So
One.
it's 1.
One.
Okay.
We want them to have the number so they're prepared.
Yeah, we'll give them the number ahead. So country. Bottom of the YouTube screen. Okay, that's where the number is. So we are going to do an icebreaker first, and I'm going to leave that one up to Johnny this week. So it's, hey, what's happening, Johnny?
What's happening is today my family is celebrating my birthday again in the house. So there's a whole bunch of food. There's a whole bunch of people, and then it's the same way we like it every week. A lot of people, a lot of activity happening, so I'm very happy.
But you get old very quickly, though, having a birthday every week, don't you?
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay, because it's like for a month, and then you got another 11 just to...
So we actually went out to
recuperate.
dinner one night for your birthday, and then we had the birthday cake on the podcast last week. And another one this week, so
Yeah,
that's
so-
3.
so
So
I've
you're
been-
52 now.
I'm
right?
52, and then my cousin wants to take me out. Nikki wants to take me out. My parents want
No,
to take me out.
I'm going to
Everyone-
disagree because I always have birthday month.
Birthday
And
month.
his month ends today. No,
Tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow.
So he's got one more day left to celebrate.
Yeah, but it ain't going to be that way. We're going to celebrate it for a long time because too many things happen, but that's what's happening, and we're very happy. And we're very happy that everyone's with us, and everyone was invited to have food, so make sure that even before or after, you always go downstairs and finish the food that's down there.
And we'll give
take
the
some.
address out after the podcast.
It's on the bottom of the screen next to the phone.
Somewhere in Central Jersey, so just follow your nose.
I have to say, Johnny, one of the best things about doing this podcast is the hospitality of your family. Every week when we come, man, everyone's here. They're always welcoming. The food, it's always a great time.
No, and now we have an added thing. We have little kids, so there's 2 little boys down there, and they're getting to know everyone and all the family, and sooner or later they're going to be contributing to the podcast and everything else in our family.
That's awesome.
That is good. Okay. So we would, at best, like to have somebody, if there's anybody online that wants to call in. And like we said before, the number's on the bottom. It's 386-956-0754. And I don't know, Steve or Way, is anybody on there to get us going?
We'll just sit here and wait.
While we're waiting, we're going to try and get Ed to swear,
So I think
Ray to do a shot, and tell Johnny something's broken in the house, but you can't fix it yourself. You got to call a handyman and just watch it.
That's his dream. Yeah, that's his dream job. He wants to.
He can't help it.
Not in his house.
No, I have to say, I for a recall, I took an older Accord that I had that I gave to my nephew. And when I got it back from the recall, they had cracked the engine cover.
Hold on. A Honda Accord car.
Yeah, V6 car, whatever. The point was that I had a recall, and I never take it to the dealer. The thing's all in one piece, and I get it back, and the engine cover's cracked. Everything's dirty. The carpets are dirty. So that's why
That's a bad.
I just don't like it. I don't like
That's a
when
bad
other
dealer.
people take what you really covet and don't treat it the same way you want it to be treated. It has a lot to do with
He
it.
might want to hire somebody to fix things, but not for his own house.
Right. You can fix things. You can hire someone to fix things for the rental property.
I have, and that's why, because there's nothing attached. But my own, I get very personal.
Okay, so Ed to swear, me to drink, you to call for help.
I just sit here.
What do we need for Gary?
But
just
it's
gonna sit
cheating,
here.
though, because you know how
I
many
don't know.
people I
Yeah.
have to call to help me?
Yeah,
I have a lot of people.
yeah.
So
Maybe Gary does an episode without a hat.
Or Gary has to put on 15 pounds. with no muscle.
or run a 7-minute mile.
I don't think you can do that in one episode.
Yeah, I don't think you can do that.
Can you run
I
a
could eat
7-minute
almost-
mile on purpose?
No.
Yeah, run a 7
You can't
miles.
physically
Yeah,
move
yeah.
that slow.
He'd
Can
be
you?
like, he'd forget what he was there for.
Yeah.
I could run slower
Yeah,
than
it's
that.
called walking.
Yeah.
for Gary.
And what do we got to get Adam to do?
Well, Adam will give him a pass because his feet are under construction.
No, that's not.
They're under construction.
He
so
has
we'll
to,
think it's
But
time.
still.
when his feet are better, he has to run a mile with the boots on.
No, we've done that already in
Yeah,
training,
we did
mountain
that.
climbing training. We do that.
With those?
Yeah, with ski boots.
Heavier than this.
Oh.
Way heavier.
Yeah,
Yeah, with
that-
75 pounds on her back, too.
yeah, that's no good.
that's
we got to do something else. Anybody?
Shave your head.
Anybody?
Beat you in a mile.
Okay.
Okay. I'm driving my truck, though.
Wait, but we're doing your two things at the same time. Like you got to run really slow, painfully slow, and he's going to beat you. That's too easy.
No, I'm going to run hard.
Well, while while Ed's cursing at you and Ray is giving you his shots because he doesn't drink, I got a chance then.
We'll do this. We'll do the lactose intolerant mile, but you don't have to drink.
What do you mean? I'm not lactose intolerant.
I am.
Okay, so you drink a gallon of milk first.
No. So you run a lap around the track, drink.
Yeah.
Well, no, before each lap, you
Okay,
I
4
have to
laps.
drink a pint of milk.
Okay,
And then if I throw up, I have to do an extra lap. So I'll be doing 5 laps while you do 4. Fair?
let's do it. Johnny, when we're all broken after this, you can fix us?
Oh, well, no.
No, Ed.
That would be it.
That's right.
Ed. That's Ed.
We have heartbeats. Assuming we still have heartbeats,
That's a
Ed,
prerequisite for
you
me to
got to
help you
step
out.
in. If it's just all like, bones and mechanical stuff, Johnny, you can clean us up.
The rest is Ed.
Got it. Okay. For the
Lines are busy. One at a time, please.
lines are busy. Okay. So
So I actually have a car question for Johnny. I actually had a problem recently.
all right. So we have a caller today. Ed, tell us something about yourself.
So
I don't swear.
I'm kind of wholesome.
Kind of.
I try my
I
best.
sweat almost as much as Adam in the 105-degree attic.
So I have an older car. It runs pretty good.
What kind of car?
It's actually a Mercedes-Benz. And so it's actually an older car. It's 1999. And so I got it with very low mileage. However, we've been having different problems with it. And the mechanic had told us, oh, these cars, they're very good cars. But the Achilles heel tends to be the electrical system. And so the mechanic had told me that, there's a drain on the battery. But I can't quite figure out where the drain is coming from.
So just to prep this, if you guys don't remember, Johnny's first job was a Mercedes mechanic. Is
No,
that
second.
second job.
And so he said, I can't quite figure out where the battery drain is coming from, but he encouraged me to drive the car longer distances. Because if you drive longer distances, it tends to recharge the battery as opposed to short distance, right? Go less than a mile, which unfortunately is where I work, right? Less than a mile
That's
away.
so unfortunate.
And you're driving?
Well, not always.
Okay,
In the
good.
rainy weather, in the chilly weather, and the snow. But what winds up happening is, when I'm teaching in the school year, driving longer distances, but in the summer, maybe not necessarily as many longer distances. So I'm at the position now, this is happening this is about the second or third time where the car now is not starting. And I suspect it's going to be the same problem as before. Probably going to get a new
It
battery.
doesn't start.
It does not start. In fact, it doesn't even make a noise.
So it's a dead battery, basically, but
Probably.
it dies much quicker than it should be.
Right.
dying.
So now, my wife and I are at a point where we're wondering, okay, so how much is it really worth continuing to sink the money into the car? And what I'm going to propose to the mechanic when I see him is, can we preemptively do something to stop this? So for instance, if we look back at the records and we say, oh, it's 2 years or 18 months, whatever the time frame is between this battery, the last battery, or mileage. Look at the car and say, okay, it's been 6,000 miles or 5,000 miles. So preemptively intervene to somehow recharge the battery or do something so that this doesn't happen. Is that
So time out.
Okay.
First of all, you're talking to a mechanic about your Mercedes when you have Johnny to be talking to about it instead.
that's right.
I have a solution.
I'm not understanding.
No,
I have a
wait.
solution.
Go ahead.
good?
Every day when you're done with your car, go open your hood and take off the positive connection, and it'll never drain.
So-
So when you go run, drive it again, put it back on.
So it
No big
turns
deal.
it
No,
turns
that's not
out
good.
you can't.
Come on, don't do that.
No, you literally can't do that for a reason. And what I found out is the first time I had a
What are you
problem
from
with the Mercedes.
recent ceiling fan repair graduate?
So this is what I found out. The first time I had this problem with Mercedes, I figured, oh, let me just jump start the car. So I did pop the hood open, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and I'm looking, and so I finally YouTube it,
It's in
and
the
I'm
trunk.
like, it's
So
in the
he's
trunk.
the only
Yeah.
one, he's the only one who knows.
Yeah, because
Right.
he knows,
Right.
And then a guy from AAA came. He's like, "Oh, yeah, all these German cars, they don't have it in the front; they put it in the back.
they put it in the back.
That's where the battery is. It's in the back.
On
So
that
you,
one, that
you literally
particular one.
you can't pop the hood and do that.
You pop the trunk.
The trunk.
I don't know.
That's what I meant.
Well, part of the problem is now I can't even pop the trunk, and this happened last time the battery
'cause the
died
battery's dead.
because the battery's dead.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a
There's a release in the front somewhere.
I know there is, and it doesn't work. So I'm in a tight
So
position.
let's go back to fundamentals. To answer this question correctly, and so that you spend the money wisely. The generic question is, how well does your car drive when it's normal?
Great.
Okay. So because your charging system and your battery system are very fundamental systems of the car, they can be repaired at much less of a cost than a monthly payment. So if the engine is running as you like, transmission's not slipping, tires are good, the fundamentals of the car are good, you're not ever going to use the fact that your car is not charging or starting as a reason to buy another car, right?
Okay.
That system is very cheap compared to the rest of the car, the guts of the
So
car.
even if it was $1,000 to fix whatever this problem is,
2
right?
months-
You're
2
going to
months-
spend $40,000 on a new
2
car.
months of payments.
No
right?
comparison.
And it's never going to be that much
Right,
anyway.
right.
So to answer your thing, and sometimes it's very similar to like when someone tells me, I need you to come to my house and look at a boiler or something. Most of the time it helps if they tell you a lot of information beforehand. This thing makes noise, this thing doesn't make noise, this thing starts sometimes and doesn't, right?
Yep.
So for yours,
So we got a caller coming in, so you got to make this quick.
yeah, I'm going to make it quick, but it's an important thing because sometimes people will make a decision to get a new car for systems like this. It's not. So if the rest of the car is working good, you have to sort of say to yourself, when is the last time I changed a battery, right? When is the last time I did service on the belts and the serpentine system, which we had a thing, because that's from the alternator. That's what transfers that to your system to charge the battery correctly. So if you have a belt that's not correct and it's not traveling at the right
Belt's good.
speed, it's not going to charge your battery the right way. One. Number two, it's very interesting that a mechanic will tell you that they don't know where the
Drain.
drain is because all you have to do is turn absolutely everything off. You put your ammeter on your main to your fuse box, and all you do is you put it. If there's really a drain, that ammeter is going to have a number on it. And all you do is you pull each fuse one by one. The minute you pull the fuse on the drain circuit, your meter goes to zero.
So why aren't we doing this like during the podcast out in the front of your house? Did you drive the car here?
No, I can't start the car.
Too late. You waited one podcast, one episode too
Just to
late.
understand, you would rather get a new car than spend $100
No,
once
no.
a year on a battery?
No, I didn't say I want to
if
get
you
a
had a
car.
battery
I
once a
didn't-
year.
No, he said
I didn't say.
he wants
I
to
said I had a question
avoid
for
the
Johnny.
he wants to avoid the problem
Yeah.
and find the preemptive strike, right?
Right.
So,
Right.
So when
Is
you
that-
look at the components involved, right, you have the mechanical ability of the motor, you have the alternator that is turning, you have then the circuit that it does to the battery. So it's something that you could easily resolve, is what I'm trying
right,
to
so-
say. It's
so let's
not
pick this
something
up.
that should make you buy a new car.
All right, so we'll pick it up after.
Done.
Yep.
All right, Stevie, we got a caller. Hey, look at that. It says we got a caller. Hello, caller.
Welcome to Attic Static.
Yes.
You're on the air.
Yes, hello. We wanted to ask all the people speaking individually what definition of the American dream, because it seems that we're living here in the United States, and basically everybody works arduously till they're 70 and that they can't enjoy retirement. Who pushes this idea? And I could like to hear from each person speaking. What is their definition of the American dream?
All right, there were two questions there. I just want to make sure we got it correct. I heard, what is our individual definition of the American dream is one. And then a question about
Who's pushing this?
Who pushes the idea of the American dream, or who pushes the idea that everyone's got to work till they're 70?
Yeah, both. Like they're kind of intertwined because everybody feels like, oh, they have to work in order to get their, whatever they're putting into their IRAs or retirement funds or all that stuff. And then they end up working till they're too late to really enjoy life.
Okay.
Okay,
Even,
got it.
even a lot of immigrants come and we're going to here to live the American dream. And then it just ends up being work. And when do you actually start living the American dream?
So if it's okay, I'd like to take that first, because that way we can go from most cynical to most hopeful, because Ed's across from me and Wholesome Ed is going to quote something from an important book to clean this up and make y'all feel better than what I'm about to say. All right? The who's pushing you to work till 70? We're all indoctrinated in capitalism. We're all sheep. And you're playing into the game. The American dream is something that's put out there that to the masses is something that is always like tomorrow, right? It's never here, but it's always coming. You've got to take the effort. Oh no, now I'm getting positive. You've got to take the effort
No, don't do that.
to call bullshit on that.
Don't do that. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm saying don't get positive.
Okay.
You can stay.
No,
thin.
be yourself.
Now I'm really confused.
Be yourself. Do whatever you got.
I think those two are mutually exclusive. Right, I'm going to pass.
All right, so I'm going to pick up on Adams. So I think so. The American dream was always come here for a better life than what you had where you're coming from. Doesn't mean that it's wonderful here. It just means it's better than where you were. That's what everybody thought, or at least that's what we've read in our history books and all that kind of stuff, right? So I don't know that anybody can say, well, whatever a common life is today in 2023 is the American dream. You just have this theory that it's better than where you came from. So it's probably harder to answer that question in any other way. As far as who's pushing it, I don't think anyone's pushing it, right? If you think you got to work till you're 70 because you're waiting for Social Security, then you've decided that you're going to wait for a handout, right, for this money.
Well, to be fair, it's not a handout. You're putting into it.
You're putting into it, but you're expecting to get more out of it than you put in, right? And you're expecting someone else to do your saving and planning and everything, retirement planning for you, right? Take my money now and then give it back to me later.
But don't people understand that that does not work and was never intended to? That's supposed to be
But I think that's the
maybe a third of what it takes to just get by.
But I think that's the false promise, right? That when the system started, it was better than expected, and people were able to actually functionally live on this thing. Or they bought your house when you were young, you stayed there, you paid off, you didn't have a mortgage, colleges weren't expensive, so you were with your paid off house and Social Security, everything was fine. And then a couple of generations just got accustomed to the fact that that's just normal. But I just think that expecting that is expecting someone else to do a lot of the work for you, as opposed to what probably the original American dream was: hey, go there and do whatever it takes to have a better life than where you came from.
Yeah, I mean, American dream to me is that you can come here and
Close to the mic.
be closer to the mic.
Yes.
You can come here and do if you want to start your own business, you can. If it's you have the ability to make a lot of money to take care of yourself and your family and not wait until you're 70 to retire. So I think the mistake maybe people potentially make is relying or thinking about the future. I want to retire in the future. I want to retire early, 70, 60, whatever it is, but not doing anything other than working today. Not saving anything, not thinking about, well, I don't need to spend $7 on a Starbucks. I'm going to, save that instead. Because if you save $3 a day now for, what did you say, 40 years, you have $1.something million. I don't think people plan. I don't think they think it out in general. I mean, I'm not going to say everybody. So, but you have the opportunity. And these people who are coming here, I guess we can't speak for ourselves because we're here. So we can't say our American dream, we're here. But if you're coming here, is it better? I mean, I'm assuming that they're leaving there, risking their lives a lot of times, that it's not that good. So anything here potentially is better.
Johnny.
Ed can go first.
So I think for my version of the American dream, it's about helping and serving others. And I think if we look at the content so far that we put out on the podcast, I think there's been a lot of good content. On our last week, we're talking about, what we've done so far over the last couple of months. And I was really proud of the content. And if you think about it, in our financial stability segments 1 and 2, we talked about financial stability not just being about us. It's about being able to give to others, share with others. Financial stability 3, we talked about Wei, and she was here for the interview, and she shared about her volunteer work that she's always done and now taking on more volunteer work. Terrence, in the episodes of Goats and Saving the World, he talked about giving goats to a local school, right, to try and help out and serve that way. Right, when Brian, the architect, was here, he talked about passing on the information to younger viewers that life isn't just about you. Right. And finally, Chris and Colleen, when we interviewed those retirees, shared the importance of introspective moments and fulfillment. None of that, from what everyone has shared on all the content that we put out, has anything to do with finances, material possessions, or anything of that nature. It all has to do with serving others, giving to others, thinking of others first. And I think that's hugely important. I think, unfortunately, in a capitalist, country that we live in, a lot of times the American dream is associated with material possessions, which isn't by itself bad, right? I mean, those things we need to live. But I think putting the focus on that for us and ourselves, may not necessarily be something that I particularly put a lot of emphasis on. I once read this quote that was really, really impactful to me. And it was, the purpose and the tendency is to try and live in this world, but not be of this world. And in our culture, that's very challenging, right? Because how can you live in a capitalistic society where everything is about materialism, but yet not value and prioritize those material possessions? So that's my input on that.
Johnny.
So the caller said certain things about the American dream definition, right? So, and he also alluded that the government has their own definition of that. And I believe that if you accept their criteria, it doesn't really help you. It helps them because they're just trying to keep the money in the pot longer, taking the risk that you're going to die after 70 quickly, right? So, we don't go by that. You go by what is defined by you is the American dream. So I propose to the caller that what is your definition? And you need to strive to that definition, right? So if you listen to the podcast and you understand that you have to have certain life goals and you have to be able to define that for yourself. And if you're not going to rely on the government, then the responsibility is upon you to put your money where it's correct, put your money in the risks that you're comfortable with, right? And if you listen to the podcast, there are so many different places to put that money. It could be in your own business. It could be in 401ks. It could be in IRAs. It could be in a lot of different things. So you have to take the responsibility to define it yourself and then take the steps to get to that goal, right? So if you leave it to the government, they're always going to do something that's for the masses, not specifically to you, right? And then the other thing is, what have you done to achieve your dream after you define it? A lot of people start to make a lot of how would you say, excuses. I don't know, I got divorced. Unfortunately, I had a kid I didn't plan on, and then that kid had a kid, and all these things caught up to me. Unfortunately, that's why the other things exist. They're sort of like a last resort.
You mean social programs
Yeah,
and social security?
exactly.
Well,
so those things
correct.
exist, right?
Right.
They're the last, or at least I would like to define them, in my opinion, as the last resort. If you didn't do your part, you can't then complain that they exist. But they're only going to give you a certain amount.
The bare minimum.
Right,
That's
the bare minimum, right?
Right.
So it's like, if you look at the whole thing, there has to be a pie in your life, and this pie is going to have real estate, stocks. It's going to have all the different things you were supposed to be doing. If you're not doing those things, at minimum, you can't say, well, now I'm stuck in this rut because the government designed it. At minimum, they designed it.
Yeah, they design social
Yeah, John,
programs.
I agree. It's about self-responsibility, right?
Exactly.
And we talk about, the caller mentioned retiring at 70, and we all talked about retiring early, but I think there's a little more to that, right? If you're working just out of bad habit because you don't know what else you'd prefer to be doing, work as long as you can. Mm-hmm. To retire early, you got to have something you're retiring for. You got to say, I got to stop this 9 to 5 so I can finally get to what my life's purpose is, what my American dream is. And one way to start thinking about that, and that gets easier with age, is try to eliminate that peer pressure, that gene in you, trying to keep up with the Joneses. When you see a 2023 Mercedes drive by, don't think, wow, that dude's rich, I want to be like him. No, he just gave $100,000 or more to the car dealership. He just lost his money, right? So I think I'm very happy driving my pickup. I love it. You got to try and resist the peer pressure to the extent that it's just driving the consumer economy. But not all of you, because we do need the economy to keep going.
Yeah,
just the Attic Static listeners like a caller here. Thanks for calling in.
Thank you guys for taking the time to answer my question.
Oh, we didn't know you were still there.
No problem, caller. Thank you.
But this is there's a little more to this, and I have to end it with this. Today is a good example for your question because today was a birthday celebration that my wife threw for me, right? If I didn't have the means for her to buy all the food, if I didn't have the means to say to everyone, listen, everyone come over, not one person, two person, no, everyone come over, right? It's a planning in your own day-to-day life that if you want certain things, you have to be able to provide them for yourself first so that then you could share them with the rest of the people. And it may seem like an off of the original question, but it's like everything in life. If you want this, you have to be able to take the steps to be able to afford it and to be able to do it. If you're waiting for the government to give you the money and the ability for your wife to go out and buy all this food and do all this stuff, it's never going to happen. And you're always going to be looking on the outside into a window on a situation where, why can they do that? It's not that someone can or can't do it. It's that you plan for it, you prepare for it, you execute it.
And it's difficult.
It is.
Accept it. It's going to be difficult. And that's okay.
But that's how life is. So,
I think you can compare this to other things. You can compare it to like health. You're not going to be healthy by just thinking about it or waiting for the government to do something for it. You want to be less tired. You have to sleep more. You have to be disciplined to go to bed earlier. Like there's so many things you can do. You can compare this to anything else in life. Nothing's going to happen for you without you taking steps for yourself.
Yep.
Yeah,
I agree.
I made the decision to stay up and watch the fight with you guys last night. Now I'm tired because of it, but that was a choice, right? So
But I hope it was worth it.
It was
because that
definitely-
was an awesome fight.
it was not worth it. Definitely not worth it. 3 hours of extra sleep would have
It
been
was worth it for me
so
because I
much
love
better.
looking over at Ray and seeing him there.
Sleeping in the chair, right? Yeah, no.
I love it.
It would have been way better to stay.
But caller, thank you so much. That's a much broader question that if you sit down and think about it, and hopefully the input that we gave you, you could sort of change that trajectory if it's not going in the right way.
All right. Any other callers on?
I would guess there's like dozens.
Dozens?
I think we got Adam from
Yeah, if we
the
don't.
hills of Hunterdon County. He got a problem with his pickup truck. He loves.
So we are going to do Adam's pickup truck problem, but do we need to finish? I don't want to drag it out. Is there any very obvious or quick answers that Ed still needs from
My
me?
truck just got insulted.
So to Ed's thing is that I think it's more of, and I don't want to say it for your mechanic or anything because I'm not that type of person, but when you talk about certain systems in a car, you pull them in, the mechanic should be able to fix them rather quickly if they're fundamental. So a battery, a starter, a serpentine belt, an alternator, all of that stuff is like remove and replace.
We could take the last question that came in, and they're not putting the time in.
Yeah,
They're not
it
solving
doesn't
it. They're not
seem
putting
that they're
time
giving
in.
you the right amount of
So,
information.
The issue, apparently, from what I was told last time I was there, it's not the battery. The batteries are fine. There's a draw on
Right.
the
Right, and he
system.
said what he would do.
No, I
And
understand.
they can do
So
that too.
what I'm trying to say is that it's just like saying my phone keeps running out.
Right.
Like there's a way to find
Right.
that
Discontinue each fuse.
out.
Right. To see which one is drawing the
circuit,
fuse.
right? So sometimes the older the car gets, sometimes I'll admit that it'll provide a certain amount of hesitation to give you the information.
Right.
But we're talking about there are tools to analyze these things that exist.
So I will say that the electrical system problems that we've had over the years are inconsistent, which shouldn't be, right? Because if it's a mechanical failure, then it should just be failed. For instance, like a automatic lock maybe doesn't work, then it just shouldn't work, right? But that's not the case.
You can actually
No, intermittent problems exist.
Okay, yeah,
There's
these are
something
intermittent.
also
I
interesting.
got an intermittent problem.
But wait, but this is interesting because in the realm, yes, you'll find certain people to say, yeah, Mercedes is a little finicky, but I'm going to put myself out there. The true electrical problems are found in Italian cars. Mercedes-Benz electrical system is repeatable and it's a good system.
Okay.
So you will be able to figure it out. So if you told me in 1980s Maserati bi-turbo, those sucked.
So Johnny, let's
You know what I mean? Like that, you'd
Right.
be like, just trade that crap in and put it on its way. But
but
your
let-
car's a good car, and
let's
it's a
cut
car
to
that's
let's cut to
repeatable.
the chase. Are we telling him he's going to go back to his mechanic and say, "Can you isolate this problem?" Or are we going to have a exercise in Johnny's driveway or Ed's driveway to figure this out?
I don't think that's necessary. What I think is necessary is that for him to ascertain if his mechanic is capable. If not, take it to a Mercedes mechanic that you feel comfortable.
All
Because
they
you're gonna have a million different
Is-
All
problems.
they do is work on Mercedes. That's
This
all
is a
they do.
Mercedes mechanic.
Well, it's not a Mercedes dealership, but all the guy does is just work on Mercedes. That's it.
Yeah, so I would really put them to the test and say, hey, I've had a few conversations. They tell me this is not a difficult problem. You should be able to fix this. If they can't,
That's an insult to him.
no, but
It's like,
I've
this shouldn't
been-
be difficult. Come
I've
on.
been told that. I've been
Johnny
told
can
like,
do it.
hey,
Look, you can ask the question: can we isolate the problem? How long will it take for you to isolate the problem?
Yeah.
Is it 2 hours? 5
because
hours?
what's going to happen?
Just say, hey,
and-
Jimmy, how about we go fuse by fuse?
Yeah, but also something, and Ray knows, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. We have a tendency to bring our cars to 300, 400,000 miles. That's not even an exaggeration. That comes with a lot of work, and it
That's
comes
my
with a little
intent.
bit of inconvenience. So sometimes mechanics will look at that mileage on the odometer and say, these people need a new car.
No, 70,000. I mean, it's an old car, but from what I understand, its history was such that it really wasn't driven around too much in the beginning.
So if
And
that car truly has 70,000 miles,
About 70,
you
yeah.
should have started the conversation off with that. you are going to make sure he solves that problem or someone else solves
Because
it.
that's worth keeping.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Absolutely.
Oh my
Don't
goodness.
even
You
think
haven't
about it.
even broken. I don't want to say the wrong
All right.
word.
So-
but you know what I mean?
That answers
You
my
have to
question.
solve that problem. Or you go buy yourself another car and give me
I think
that
that would
car.
have been PG-13 these days. I think that's all.
It's definitely worth
I'm
keeping.
taking that car, yes. It's well worth it. It's well worth it. And it's not a problem that's out of this world.
That's good to know. That's good to know, 'cause that's,
Hey,
that's one of the
Johnny.
things I was struggling with.
I think we have a call from somebody about their pickup truck.
Yeah.
pickup truck?
Someone's got a pickup truck.
Yeah,
problem.
hey there, Johnny. So I got me an old pickup, 2010 Toyota,
That's not that old.
200,000, 225. I can't count that high. I'm originally from West Virginia. Got a lot of miles
We
on
just
it.
lost 10
Yeah.
people.
Got a lot of miles
Did
on
we have
it.
that many listening?
All right. What's
Now,
wrong with it?
She got an intermittent problem.
Okay.
Do you really have that many miles on your car?
I do.
Wow.
On a
I'll call her. What's your
on a
name?
2010, that's a lot.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to ask
Go
for the
ahead.
caller.
Bubba.
What's your name?
Bubba.
And where are you calling
Bubba
from?
Cletus Clem.
Where are you calling from?
Wheeling, West Virginia.
I was going to say, if he's Bubba, he has to be from West Virginia. Go ahead.
So it seems that power steering is intermittently fading out. Now I'm going to sue those bastards. I'm mixing accents because this will no, this didn't. That was separate. that was from wrestling with the pigs on my farm. Now, what I don't understand is sometimes it's hard to turn, but by the time I get it all the way turned, it kind of loosens up, stiffens up, loosens up, and it's only been happening for the past couple of weeks. So I'm thinking I just put something in that power steering fluid canister, some windshield wiper fluid in there, be a good thing, right?
Okay, so this is interesting because I'm going to be the first person to admit I was very into cars. I know them extremely well, but technology is increasing and changing. So everyone
This
knows.
is from 2010. You're
Wait.
knee high to a grasshopper, then,
Wait,
Johnny.
wait. Remember, there's a lot of manufacturers and there's a lot of models. And this is what I'm going to tell you. There's technology that has advanced. Back in the day, all power steering was hydraulic. And now there is hybrid. There's some that are still hydraulic, and there are now electric power steering. A lot of people don't know that. It's electric motor running your power steering. It no longer uses your serpentine belt. So unfortunately,
Son of a bitch. That's
You-
what I was worried about.
you have a Toyota Tacoma, correct?
Yeah.
All right. So all I would ask you is next time, or if you could on your phone, find out what type of power steering your car has. If it has electric power steering, the tree is going to go this way to answer the question. If it has hydraulic power steering, it's fundamental and it's extremely simple. The electric ones, this is the other problem. Because the invention of all of these systems talking to each other, your electric power steering might be talking to your alternator module, it might be talking to your ECU, and it could be looking at a lot of different
Could it
things
be
that are
talking to my volume dial on the radio?
It could
'Cause that
be.
doesn't work either.
It could be talking to your wife and say,
Oh, shit.
She ain't working either.
So
Actually, you're
unfortunately,
working harder than all of y'all.
I'd be lying to the public and everyone here if I could answer that without knowing which system you have.
Oh, that's the first step. I appreciate it,
yes,
Johnny.
and because I don't work on cars often as I used to, but if you give me that information,
let me-
I could tell you what's wrong.
Let me interrupt. So here, 2010 Toyota Tacoma power steering pump.
That sounds hydraulic.
Doesn't it mean
Sounds
it's hydraulic?
hydraulic.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Power steering pump for your Toyota Tacoma, direct steering fluid from the reservoir, blah, blah,
So
blah.
maybe it's the
Yes.
pump or not enough power steering fluid.
So because of that, if that being said, and your model, someone's phone is ringing.
Not it.
Not it.
So if it's that, then you have yourself your run-of-the-mill hydraulic system, and for the callers and everyone at this table, it's very simple. You have a mechanism that has mechanical components that are attached to your tire, and there is a pump that's attached to the same system that pushes your alternator.
We have a
We
real.
are answering the caller.
Yeah, man.
But let's finish. So, fluid quality, meaning it has to be nice and clean. A lot of people don't know that power steering pumps have filters in them. There's some of them are in the pump and some of them are in the line. They get clogged up and they do a lot of funny things. Another thing that you could do too, get your wife in the car, push it this way, push it that way.
My wife?
Yeah, your wife, or your daughter, or your If your dog is
we
that
used
smart.
to do that in West Virginia, but I'm thinking the steering wheel only.
So you could give us feedback by
Hey,
saying, how
boy.
does the pump sound? If you go extreme left and extreme right, and it makes a wide variety of sounds from left to right, it'll pinpoint where it's at. If it's completely quiet left and right, you go somewhere else. So because we have another caller, we'll give them priority and we'll go back to Mr. West
Well, we're
Virginia.
going to send you a chew flat pie, Mr. Johnny. Thank you.
All right. Let's. Who's on the line?
Hello, caller.
Hello?
Yes,
Hey,
you're live here with Attic
What do we
Static.
have there, darling?
Hi. My question's a little off topic right now, but I've been meaning to get your guys' opinion on what home improvements I could make to raise the value of my home.
So first of all, we need what's your name?
Oh, my name is Susan.
Susan.
What kind of house? Is this a condo, townhouse, single family home?
It's a multifamily, but I want to be able. I currently reside in the multifamily home, and I have a tenant upstairs, but I eventually want to move out and be able to rent out the full property. But I want to be able to charge the most money that I can. So I want to know what I should actually renovate that'll make a difference.
Okay, that's a great caveat. So you're not necessarily looking to raise the value of the house. You're looking to spend money to maximize what you can charge in rent. Is that correct?
That too. Mm-hmm.
That is correct.
That's the most, that's what I want to do in short term. Yes.
Okay. So just to summarize, right? What's the thing? What can be done for a rental property to raise the future income of the property, not necessarily the value of the property itself, right? So who wants to go first?
I'll go first. There's a lot of different opinions. So since I'll take an easy one, as long as the mechanical systems are working, fresh coat of paint will do wonders.
Agree.
I think it's important to look at what the going rents are in the area and what they're providing. So, for example, I raised the rent in one of my apartments recently, and in order to do that, I also had to provide a brand new washer and dryer, which was not provided before. So, not a huge investment, relatively speaking, because you get the money back in a couple months' rent. But you may need to put things in other than just paint. You may need to put in a washer dryer if it's not included. You may have to put an air conditioning unit, wall units, or I don't think you're going to want to spend $10,000 on the whole house. But
you might.
You may need to put some money in to be able to get the rent you want out of it.
And I think that's what she's looking for, right? So you brought up washer dryer, so I would say any other of the appliances might be helpful, right? Stove, anything in the kitchen, washer dryer, dishwasher, those kind of things. Even when you're buying houses, but I'm sure it works for renting as well, kitchen is a big thing. Kitchens and bathrooms is where everybody looks, right? So I would piggyback on that and say any of the appliances would be helpful, and updated bathrooms are probably another place to go, right?
What about a
Just to
budget?
make-
Do you have a budget that you'd like to stick to? Or is it
that's
purely
that's to Susan? Is she still
Yes,
there?
that's to Susan.
I heard a beep. Okay,
okay.
I lost her. Okay,
She's got no budget, endless, sky's the limit. Go for it.
all right.
So I would say to answer her question, unfortunately she hung up. I'm hoping that her multifamily, so that my answer is in context, is in some type of urban environment. So we're in an urban environment now, and I could easily tell you what the formula is. It's rooms. How many rooms? If you can take a 2-bedroom apartment and make it a 3-bedroom, if you can make it a 4-bedroom, that's exactly what's going to increase your rental capability. Number one. Number two, Gary alluded to it. Most of the houses in urban places do not have laundries. They have to take all their stuff. They got to go to a laundromat. If you can figure out a way in your basement to put a laundry, whether it be through paying, they sell coin-operated laundry equipment that the owner has to put, the tenant has to put quarters and stuff, and the owner takes the money. And then two, something that a lot of people overlook, does your house, apartment, condo have parking? If it's street parking, you have to figure out a way to get parking for the people, because at least in the town that we're in now, parking is an epidemic. Not a small problem, it's a huge problem. So In one of the episodes, I alluded that there's a formula when you decide to buy a house. And one of the formulas that I always had was buy a house that has to have a single car garage, double garage, or a very long driveway. And if it's a double wide driveway, even better, right? And those three things will lure potential renters every time. If you don't have laundry, if you only have a single bedroom and they have to share it or someone has to be on the couch and there is no parking, you got problems. I'm not saying that you're not going to rent the apartment, but I could guarantee you that the one that competes with you that has all that will be double. That's the end.
I understand, like, they put a washer and dryer and put it so you have to pay to use it. I think you're asking for more problems, because if there's a problem, you have to go fix it or hire somebody to fix the. If you raise your rent $100 just for one floor per month, that's going to cover the expense of a brand new washer and dryer.
So Gary, you're just saying you don't need a coin op one. You
I
could just-
wouldn't do that. I would just put it in there because you're going to be able to rent more money. You're going to make it back in a year. You're going to cover the cost in a year, at least.
Yeah, I would probably do the same thing. Whether it's right or wrong, but that's what I would do.
The only reason why I say it, and I'm a little bit in touch with this area that we're talking about, water in this town is so expensive. If you get a careless tenant, you will get
Well,
a
who's paying for
$2,000.
water? Because water.
The owner. In
Not
this
my house. That's paid by the.
And that's why it's important to have these conversations. So in this town that we live in, where I have the rentals or I had the rentals, I want to say like 75% of the water bill is paid by the owner because it was never separated. And it's a pain in the ass
So
to
to be fair,
separate.
the house I have is 2-family. It's not separated. We cut it. We take the bill, and I cut it in half.
So I guess what Johnny's saying that what could happen is if one tenant is careless or does their laundry, or has all their friends come over doing laundry all the time because it's free, quote free, right? Then you're gonna get this monster bill, and your other tenant's gonna be like, hey,
It happens all the time.
Right.
It happens all the
I
time.
guess ideally it's best if you can put the washer and dryer in each apartment so that each person.
That's what I'm trying to say. So to answer her question is, one, you bring me to a different level, right? And I don't want to overdo it, but it is something that will bite into your monthly
we like to call it nut.
Profit.
profit. So this town, the owner always owns the water meter. So even if you go and divide your second floor, give them their own water meter and give them their own in the first floor, if the second floor doesn't pay it, you're stuck with it as the owner.
I'm sorry,
Right.
I wasn't saying splitting it up to have
No,
two
no,
meters.
no.
Yeah.
I'm just elaborating on what you're saying. So there is a correct way to do things, right? So if we're really going to go to exactly what's going to make you the money and what's exactly going to make them happy, you would then answer the question by saying, divide your water, make it so that all the water and the pipes are segregated, and first floor, second floor, third floor, depending on how many floors, has their own meter, right? If they have their own meter, then you don't need the
Absolutely. And that's another huge point. So in any kind of rental scenario, you have some costs that are fixed, some that are variable. Fixed cost, property taxes, maybe an HOA fee. Variable cost, typically power and water. Try to get all of the variable costs picked up by your tenant.
Exactly.
And the argument is simple. Hey, you're going to benefit. You conserve water, you'll pay less.
Right, they
if
have
I
control.
guess, I may end up, someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. You pay directly anything that's variable, I'll pick up everything that's fixed. Gives you better control also.
yep.
I agree.
All right. Any other quick ones on that? So Johnny's points were parking,
Bedrooms.
How many rooms in the apartment? Laundry,
And laundry.
and parking.
Adam said the paint job. Gary said washer dryer. I think that's covers most of the points for that kind of situation. So, thanks Susan for calling, even though you're not here anymore, and we hope to hear from you again.
Why we talk about cars and houses and money in the first place, guys?
Because they're what take the chunk of your money if you don't pay attention to them.
It's a big impact on life,
They're
right?
wastes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, what did we say? Cars, houses. What was the other one? Okay, cars and houses, and properties. Right. So houses could be a huge money pit, right? A little knockoff from the other caller, talking about the American dream and having a house and all that kind of stuff. But it can cost a fortune to keep it up, to buy it, to fix it, all that kind of stuff. But everybody wants it, right? Like that is still has that feeling of American dream kind of stuff. So it is important to figure out how to do it without having it become, the whole point, of your life and taking all of your resources and time to do it. And cars get you everywhere in this country, right? You need cars to go to work, to school, to your friends, to go on vacation. So they seem to be big, impactful things in life, right?
Yeah, I at least myself, I would answer why we do things, and I think we're at a current time where inflation is running rampant, and you could find out that by doing some research yourself online through YouTube, whatever, and trying to bring certain things into your own hand. Back in the day, you could say, well, I saved myself $25. We're getting to the point where any little thing you could do for yourself is saving you $250, $300.
Yeah, because of inflation.
It's getting so out of control that I think the answer to why we do things, why we try to get people to be self-supportive, is because you could save yourself a good chunk of money. But I think something that is very interesting, and I wish I had prepared to give you what the true term for it, but there are certain highs in life that you get out of alcohol, out of cigarettes. There is a high that you get from solving problems. Yes. Mechanics go through that high every day. And there's a name for that. I don't know what it is, but there's a certain thing that gives you more motivation. It gives you a good sense to yourself that you solve this problem yourself, right? And I think, at least myself, the biggest problem of trying to do these things yourself is that now you're getting to the point where when you invite someone to your house to do whatever service, the number is so astronomical that someone has to pause and say, can I do this myself? Can I do some research? Can I maybe network with my friends to get this? And you save yourself $500-600.
And I'm going to say the answer is almost always yes. It's just a matter of how many hours do you have, how many additional tools might you need to buy, how many YouTube videos do you have to watch, and
how many friends do you have to
how many friends can you lean on? But the answer is still almost always yes. And it's really not weighing, can I do this myself? It's really, should I do this myself? And the more you do it, the easier it becomes.
So Johnny, you said it's like a puzzle, I guess, right, for the mechanic to figure out the problem, right? But so is that not the same for everybody else in just their life? Like, is there a puzzle to how do I get to a place in life where I'm happy? Is that and they need to go solve it, right? What are the things they need to do to get in place? If whether it's find the career that I love, whether it's open a business instead of getting a 9-to-5 job, whether it's retire early or whether it's work forever because I love it, or whether it's, I want 5 vacations a year. Like, what are the puzzling things that I need to solve to get to that thing that I want, right? And managing money, managing time, managing your education, managing your family, managing all those things is like, if everybody took it upon themselves, like you're suggesting, like, if I got to figure this out because this is the thing that I want, then people would spend more time doing it, right? How do I invest money better? How do I spend time better? How do I educate myself better? What do I have to do to get to this place, right? And I don't think people take it that way. I think people it feels like people just go down the path, right? I just go to school and I get a job and I just see what happens as I go, right? No one's putting like steps and puzzle pieces together to get to a certain place.
Most people are stumbling into tomorrow by accident and by habit. Usually bad habit.
I think the other thing on that, Ray, that you had mentioned, and I think there's a lot of truth to what John was saying, is that it's the prioritization of time, which a lot of times is dependent on your stage of life. Last week when we were having the podcast, I was sharing some stuff that was going on with my dishwasher, and we were looking at the water inlet valve. And so this past week, right, there's a lot of time that my family and I spent troubleshooting and going through things.
Wait, we didn't hear the end of this. Did you figure it out?
You made this into a family activity?
Let's go.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
Right.
And so we actually turned it into a family activity.
All right.
Instead of watching the reality show, my wife and I would sit and we watch a couple of different YouTube videos, explain to the kids.
And watching the dishwasher, like the chairs in the kitchen, watching the dishwasher.
And so, explain to, kids what's going on. And I said, so everybody's got to pitch in. Everybody's got to do some dishes. It's going to be a lot more than usual. Everybody's just got to pitch in. So we're all just doing it. So it's kind of nice in the sense that it's like, something that we're all tackling together. But when I look back on it, let's just say, the one was in second grade, the other one's in preschool. right? So I'm running the Cub Scouts, you know, we're taking this one to swim lessons, you know, I'm staying late at work to catch up on things, and my wife's had a bad day, you know, stressed out at work. Is that really the time we can do all that with that time that we have? Is that really important? Or is the important things at that time, you know, really, well, we're doing our family game night, we're doing our family movie night, you know, oh, tell me what's going on at school. You know, how can I help you with your homework? That's probably more important at that time.
At the time, yeah.
So at that time, I didn't spend any
You
time in the
just
dishwasher.
called
I'm
the
just,
plumber.
just hiring some guy.
Right.
You know, how much does it cost? I really don't care. You know,
You
kid had a
do
tough
care.
day. Well, my kid had a tough day at school. I care more about that.
You
Right.
care. You
Priorities.
just care.
But now the situation in the phase of life allows that I can do it.
Come on, Ed,
And
get to
that-
the point. Did you fix it or not?
Hold on.
No, the point is that the
I like the
dishwasher
whole-
understands his lifestyle and picked the right time to fail.
So what John
I
was
like
saying,
it.
you know, a lot of pride and a lot of, you know, rewarding feeling of being able to try and problem solve and do things, you know, is nice.
Yep.
You know, and I think, you know, that's also good in the sense that, you know, you're doing it together as a family, right? Or you're doing it together with your spouse, right? And that can actually just add to that. You know, if you're someone single, I mean, that's great too. You have the rewarding feeling, you know, learning things and fixing things. But then when you have others involved, then that good feeling is even, you know, multiplied because now you're sharing that good feeling with
agree.
other folks. So that's a good thing. So to
We're
bring you an
waiting.
update
Yeah.
on it.
Because I know I didn't give you the valve.
You didn't give me the inlet.
so-
So what wound up happening is I found out that apparently when we looked online, we had to check on the model number. And so a lot of the inlet valves had ones where you had to match the model number. So I thank you for the water inlet
offer,
valve,
the offer.
But we decided to get one because I wasn't sure, you know,
Right.
which model numbers yours would fit. So we got it. And then we got it, you know, watched a YouTube video. Taking it out wasn't bad. You know, it was easy. You know, I just watched the video.
Yep.
Anytime something wasn't sure, I just rewound, paused, look, okay, check it out. So we took it out. But when I took it out and looked at the new one, you could see there's a brass elbow that was on there. And I figured, no big deal. I'll just back that out. You know, got my adjustable channel pliers, which now I know what. There's the adjustable channel pliers. And I'm sitting there thinking, I have no idea what that is. I don't have that. So then I Googled it, looked at Google Images. I'm like, what? That thing has a name? I'm like, I got that. I didn't know that was the name of
Tongue
it.
and groove, everything.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, that's the name of it. I just called it, you know, plier. I didn't know that had a name. So anyway, so I got my tools, you know, and I took it apart. But the water inlet valve had a brass elbow on there.
Yep.
Which I would just call it like a little, you know, golden turn thing.
No, you got it.
But now
Elbow.
it's called, you know, now I know it's called the brass elbow. Had a brass elbow on there. After I just backed that thing out, and I went to go back it out, and it wasn't budging. So I tried to, you know, push a little harder, and it wasn't going.
This is
And-
on the new one.
No, this is on the old one that I took
old one,
out
right.
because I wanted to take the elbow out to put the elbow on the new
Because
one.
the new one doesn't come with the other.
Doesn't come with the elbow.
Yep.
Couldn't take it out, so I took it to the guy at the Home Depot, and he looked at it, and looked at it had like almost like this dried mud looking. And my wife had suspected, oh, I think that's plumber's putty.
tough on you.
So I said, I'm not sure. So I looked at the guy at the Home Depot and I explained to him, I said, the thing's not budging. And he's like, oh, that's not coming off. He said, that stuff on there, once you put that on, it's not coming off. So he said, you have to get a new one, but when you put the new one, use the Teflon tape.
Right.
Yep.
And this way we'll be able to back it in and out. So we did that, and we bought the brass elbow. And the brass elbow came with this. I guess another guy I know. He works in the plumbing area. He's a pipe fitter. We were having dinner with him over the weekend, so I was chit chatting with him about it. And the brass elbow came with this little. It looks like a little cylinder, like a cuff, but it's tapered down. And he said, "Oh, that's called the bell."
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, "You need that when you do the compression fitting."
Goes into the
Yeah.
line.
But you don't need that. in this
But
case.
well, yeah, that's the case. So he explained you probably don't need it because mine's like a flexible silver-looking line. It's got a nut, and I think it's got something like that built in. You can see it almost like a black washer.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
So it sounded like I didn't need it. I thought, okay, I guess I don't need that. So I just put that aside, used the brass elbow, connected it, and then we got the Teflon tape and we put the elbow on the inlet valve, but it was just slightly off. I didn't think it was, but it was slightly
Off
off.
meaning cross-threaded?
Off meaning that instead of meeting it perfectly flush, it was just off a little bit because I was turning it, and it turned maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 times. I can't get it anymore.
But do you mean it was cockeyed on the threads, or
must
do you
have
mean
been-
it wasn't lined up where it ended?
It must have been cockeyed on the thread.
Cross-threaded.
So you cross-threaded the brass.
And so I put it in,
Yeah.
and of course it leaked.
Of course.
So I had to take it out, and I was like, what's wrong? And then my wife had said, look, I think it's off a little bit. So I thought, all right, let me just try it again. So we took it out, took the Teflon tape on, put it back on, and this time I tried to line it up a little better. It threaded way more on.
Yeah.
I think maybe the first time, maybe like 20% on there.
Yeah.
The second time is like 80, 90% on there. And I kept trying to crank it to get it tighter and tighter. So the only thing that seemed to be an issue, but I had enough slack on the line that when I put the water inlet valve back in the dishwasher,
Yeah.
originally the line went back. And the other, I guess, return line that goes to the sewage line, that also went back. But because I turned it,
Yeah, you're in the
it was
wrong
now
one.
coming forward. But there's enough slack in the line. It was just a little curve. It's not kinked or anything. So it was a little more challenging to put it back on. So right now, as we speak, it's there. When I go home, I got to run the dishwasher to see if it leaks.
Oh.
So I'm hoping.
Not a
You put it in
complete-
test it?
Not complete yet. Not complete yet. So we're still
I was just going
at a
to fist bump
cliffhanger.
you across the
Oh,
table, but I'm going to hold that
But-
now.
But the good thing is, as it lasts longer, we continue to do family teamwork.
Family dishwasher.
Absolutely.
Family teamwork to get over the hump. So I was sort of thinking, you know what, this is okay. If it doesn't,
That's gonna
get
keep
done
sabotaging.
in a week, 2 weeks.
And look,
we're still got the family
there's like
teamwork going on.
6 or 7 little things you learn there along the way that are
Yeah.
all applicable to other home improvement projects.
Right. And one of the things I
100%.
learned about was taking, and I think I talked about this last week, is taking the internal parts of the dishwasher out, because I never did that. And they're saying on the video, even if this isn't your problem, it's good to do as a homeowner. And I'm sitting thinking, well, I've had 2 homes and I've never done this at all. And sure enough, on the video, they're explaining how to do it, and you're going to find a lot of junk. And I found all kinds of junk in there. So I was very glad I did that.
But it made you feel good, right?
It made me feel great.
And there's something about what he just went through. If we look at the ails of society, and not like we're the moral police or anything, but
Well,
you
that
have
is.
you have a lot of people who they have a lot of time on their hands because they've decided they are not capable of doing that. But what they're doing is they're replacing the time where they could have been doing that and they could have been having family time with a host of vices that are not good for them.
Right.
And I know that it's a little taboo to talk about these days because coming from someone who I'm sort of down for whatever. I do a little bit of everything in my personal life and things I wasn't taught as a person. But it's like you have to be able to say, if I could spend time on these things, you're not spending time on the things that are detrimental to your life because you're learning.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can never say, I read this book and that was a waste of time. The minute you learn something, it gets put there and it's there forever.
Right.
So these things teach you and your family that, yeah, you could spend $300 and call me to your house, right? But how much more satisfying is to do it yourself?
Yeah.
And then your daughter saw it, your son saw it, your wife saw it, and that's going to propagate.
Right.
Right.
But and it was interesting because as I was going through it the last couple of weeks, I kept thinking, there's just no way that I would have had time to do this,
No.
15 years ago.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right? There's just no way. Running around, being the taxi cab driver to all the kids' events, there's just no way. You can't do that.
Yeah.
And it sticks. It's like telling Jenna, my wife, oh, yeah, Johnny sent his car or his something over there. She'd pause and be like, there's something wrong with him, right? So it becomes like a habit, right? You
Right.
do it as together and you're teaching them. And even if they don't do it themselves, they know that they have the option.
Yeah, and look, here's the lesson. When we started, Ed, I think in an earlier episode, you had mentioned something to the effect that, like, I'm not that handy. I don't do it myself. I call an expert.
Very true.
And then this came up, and I think all of us were about 100% confident that if you're just persistent, absolutely no doubt you're gonna fix it yourself because it doesn't take it's not magic.
Nope.
Anybody
Yeah.
can do it. It's just about persistence. If you haven't done it before, that's it.
Yeah. This afternoon, though, we ran into a kind of a goofy, wacky problem just before we came to the podcast, actually. Just before I put the water inlet valve back in, I had it disconnected. And I turned the water off underneath the sink that goes to the dishwasher, which the last couple of times I tried it, taking in and out over the past week has not been an issue. You just turn off the water, put a little Tupperware or towel there, you get a little bit of dribble of what's in the line, and that's it. So today, again, I had that valve turned off, took the water inlet valve out, and we had probably about 5 or 6 bowls full of water. And I'm like, wait a minute, how can this be possible? I just had it out last night, and the thing would have a little bit of dribble, and that's it. But it kept coming out.
This is the water line, not the drain line.
Right. Well, this is the drain.
Shut
It's
off valve.
underneath the sink. It's the water shut off
Yep.
for the line that's going to the dishwasher.
dishwasher, yeah.
And all this week, we've taken it in and out maybe 3 or 4 times, trying different things. And shutting that off was never a problem.
But it eventually
But
stopped.
now, all of a sudden, today, we shut that off as we have been, and the water just kept coming out. So I had to go downstairs to the basement and shut off the main to the house.
So
And I'm sitting there thinking, wait a minute, between now and last night, I just had it out last night and it was not doing this. What's up with that valve?
No, you got
going
sediment in the seat. So each valve, whether it's this big or this big, there's a seat where it sits, and then in the city water, there's calcium and all this crap that comes from the pipes. All you need to do is either one or two things: the minute you get a second and you have a good bowl or something, you're going to take that valve, you're going to open it completely. You're going to let the water flow through
okay.
and clean that seat, and then you're going to seal it. Do that a few times, and that seat usually, and you'll see them in the Home Depot aisle or whatever aisle from the plumbing store, they sell kits, and they're usually like large face O-rings, and that's what's in that valve to close it.
So
when
let
you
it
tighten
flow.
Yeah, so when you get a little piece of that white stuff you see in your water and it sits on that O-ring and you try to seal it, it just starts to drip.
Yeah, that's what it was doing. It just kept on. I'm like, how is this
Yeah.
possible? It was fine last night.
But
All
it
right,
did
so open it
stop
all
when,
the way.
Right, but it stopped when you killed the house.
Well, we
Yeah.
shut off the house, and then it still took a while. It just dripped for a while.
But when you turned it back on, you were already connected to the
Oh,
dishwasher.
I turned it back on. You know, and then I came over here. That was.
so it's running
I
right
said,
now
"Honey,
in the floor."
The water's on.
Right.
I said, water inlet valve is back in the dishwasher. Don't use the dishwasher yet. I'll get Tessa when I come home.
Dishwasher's overflowing as we speak.
No, she's fixing it right
fire
now.
department
She
is
already, she already blew that valve out. It's fixed.
Well, she's listening to what Johnny says. She's probably doing it right now.
Yeah. Or she's got the plumber and they're taking care of it. Yeah. All right. So since the dishwasher saga is now in full effect, I guess we're going to hear the next version of this when we get to
Next week, yeah,
next
the
episode.
update.
Yeah. All right. So I think we're done for today. We're going to start taking calls like this every week. So just to make sure everybody knows, please call in. The phone number's on the website. The phone number's on YouTube. You can also put questions in on YouTube, and we hope to hear from everybody again.
Put them on YouTube or on our website. It's our website. You can do the questions.
You can do the questions well, you can make comments on YouTube, and you can submit questions
On the
on
website.
the website.
Yeah.
also.
Staticpod.com.
And I
Either
think,
way,
like
yes.
everything else in life, if you guys could give as much information as possible so we could give an answer that is relevant to that problem. Sometimes I think people generalize their questions. The more information you could give, the more be specific to your situation.
Yep. All right. That's a wrap.